Welcome back to the Real Estate Show on KMED. Today, Pete Belcaster and Joe Brett, the real estate guys, with you. And thank you for being with us today. It's the 29th of March. Next to Saturday, it's the KMED radio auction, and we won't be here next week. We're coming back in 2 weeks from today at a new time for April and May. It'll be 11 a.m. will be our live shows beginning on April the 12th with the Jackson Soil and Water Conservation District. So one thing about Joe, that we always know, a change is always inevitable. We've been on the 10 o'clock slot for almost 4.5 years, over 4.5 years. So it'll be a little bit different. Anyway, we'll be at 11. And then in June, we'll actually go to our new permanent slot at 1 in the afternoon and a 9 o'clock Sunday morning repeat.
So that's 2 weeks from today.
Yeah.
When we come back after the auction, it's 11 o'clock, and we'll hold there for about a month, and then
2 months.
2 months, and then be back into the early afternoon, which still is, if you're out and about and doing real estate things or looking for homes, it's still a prime time to catch us in the middle of the day there.
So April the 12th, the Jackson Soil Water Conservation District. April 19th, you're going to want to stay tuned for that show. It'll be Aging in Place with Sharon and Howard Johnson. That'll be on April the 19th, and that's another big movement going all around, is Aging in Place.
Timely topic for you as
You're
well.
Funny. Well, I'm aging. I will, but so are you. So you know that.
You went out to lunch with Howard and Sharon too, so that's good proactive planning on your part.
Yes, aging in place.
No, actually, that is going to be a huge. I don't want to call it an industry, but it's going to be a huge new wave of how people approach buying homes and living in homes.
The baby boomers want to do that.
Yeah.
Let me introduce Laurel Adams. She's the owner of All Cities Property Management, and she is believe me when I say our resident expert in all things property management with us. What was that? You're on this committee for this? What does that mean?
It's great.
What is it? What is the committee? What is it? Tell me what they do.
Well, that committee's been meeting for over, year, don't quote me, I think a year and a half.
Okay.
And they've been putting together ideas, and they have the show coming up in April, the home show, improvement show. There's going to be members of the group, of the committee, that will be there discussing things that you can do to your house, so you can go see them at the home show.
Well, that's actually what Howard and Sharon Johnson are doing, are building.
Yes, they are.
Aging in place, I guess I don't know if that's the right word, aging in place homes. And the value of these things is only, I would think, is going to go up.
And there's also a day-long workshop coming up in April. I think it's the 26th. I don't have it on me. But there's a workshop coming up for contractors, real estate agents, property managers, assessors, all the people in the industry, and you're going to get continuing education credit.
Excellent.
So it's like a no-brainer, you guys. I think it's $20. It's just a no-brainer.
And you
need to go.
They work very closely with AARP of Oregon.
It is, AARP.
And there are new and innovative ways you can remodel your home to age in place in the home that you're in.
And still get it certified, right?
Still get it certified, as well as the new construction that you can, a lot of people, transition down to a smaller place with less to take care of it. Now, these are built for you to age in place and to live in for the rest of your life.
And it's really important to know that it's this area, the people in this area are the ones that actually put together all of that stuff and that program and sent it to AARP and got it validated through them.
Right.
And now it's going to become a nationwide program. So it started right here in the Rogue Valley, you guys. People here put together a program that's going to go nationwide.
And on forms, real estate forms, now the aging in place, that is a checkbox.
Yes.
That if the home,
yes.
and that was the big thing, to make it available that people could actually check a box if the home is certified.
And that was done by that committee.
Yeah,
that was put together through that
committee.
And
that was a big deal to get anything changed on those forms. I mean, you got to go through. You talk about layers of.
It took over, don't quote me, I think it was over a year that they worked on that.
Yeah. My favorite Leonard Skinner lyric of all time, and baby boomers will hang with me on this one. When my time's up, I'll hold my own. You won't find me in no old folks' home. You got that right. And that's really what it's about. It's about your own place, the place that you're comfortable. And having all the amenities and things that you need.
Well, it's really interesting because I have a couple of 55 and older rentals available right now that I can't give them away. So people, there's just something about people who in their minds, they think 55 and older, I don't want to.
I'm old.
What they're
saying.
I don't want to check into that.
It's the baby boomers again saying, I can't face that I'm actually aging, and therefore I can't live in a 55 and older park.
And yet
because
they're fabulous.
I'm going to be old.
I'm too young.
Yeah.
So
Well, that's really kind of crazy.
for a few months.
Well, anyway, so, all right, we'll switch from aging in place chatting here for a minute, and let's talk about the rental market in Jackson County. Of course, Laurel is also, not only is she the owner of All Cities Property Management, she is a past president of the Southern Oregon Rental Owners Association and is still on the boards of those things and knows all of these rules. We talk about fair housing. We talk about rental markets and rental conditions and things. And Laurel is certainly the one that really, deals with that and talks about that all the time. So, condition of the market. I mean, I still hear clients walking in and people who moving here are just desperate to find rentals, and it's difficult. They're not out there, are they?
No, they're not. The vacancy rate, and I can't remember there was whether it's 1.48 or 1.68, but nonetheless, it's below 2%.
Below 2%?
Below 2%, yeah. And that's just incredible for our Jackson County, Josephine County area.
Well, I remember when we first started our show 5.5 years ago, or 4.5 years ago, that the rental vacancy rate was really low, about in that same category, and then it went back 3 or 4%. Right. But you're saying it's back down below 2%.
Oh,
what do you think? Why?
Well, one of the main issues is right now in my rental pool, I have 4 houses that are being taken out of my rental pool and putting into for sale pool. So a lot of
that's
the owners,
part of it.
So one of the things is that the homes that didn't sell because of the real estate market drop, those went into the rental pool.
Okay.
Now a lot of those rental pool houses are coming out of the rental pool and going on the sale block.
Because we're seeing more inventory coming on. I mean, there was this week, after Joe said that to me last week, they said, there were 53 new listings on the MLS in this one day.
Well, some of them are my rentals.
Yes. There's a lot of them may be rentals. Well, there was again, all week long, I just kind of followed it all week. And again, there was in the 50s all throughout the week of new listings coming on. So the inventory is definitely climbing, but at the expense, it sounds like, some of it, of the rental market.
Well, and don't forget that what's happening here is also happening in other parts of the country. So therefore, people that were holding off moving here to the Rogue Valley, either to rent or to purchase, had to wait because their houses weren't going to sell for the price they wanted.
Right.
And so, as you know, we're about a year behind the Bay Area, California. Mm-hmm. And isn't it about a year from a year ago that California started really bouncing back?
Yep.
Okay, so here we go. It's a year later. It's the summer. It's May, June. We're getting into May. And this is the time. So you're going to see all of those. And I've received many phone calls within the last month from prospective owners looking to purchase homes in the Rogue Valley who will put them into a rental pool until they're ready to retire. So we're getting a whole nother siege that we had maybe 5 to 7 years ago. Mm-hmm. And that all happened that period. And then the real estate market dumped. Mm-hmm. And then there are people looking for cheap houses because it dumped and they rented them. Well, now we're getting into the second round. That's my opinion. That's only opinion. I can't substantiate with facts, but that's what it feels like because I keep getting people calling, well, what do you think I could get rent if I buy this house? And, well, what's the address? Does it have, what are the amenities? I look it up on the MLS or they'll send me a link and I'll look at it on the MLS and give them kind of an approximate rental figure.
Well, well, with that kind of a low vacancy rate, I would assume that it's going to have some effect on prices.
It does.
Of what are you seeing? What? Tell me.
Well, that's really interesting because the rental prices have gone up. But here's the joke: the people around here, their salaries haven't gone up. So it's okay. We have a little shortage. The owners call and say, "Can we raise the rents?" I said, "Sure, we can raise the rents, but remember, we may create a move, which in itself, we can raise the rent to the next person coming in, but that turnaround is going to eat up any profit that you might have seen during that period of time.
If it was vacant.
Yeah.
Sure.
So different companies have different opinions on how to handle this. My personal opinion is I don't like to raise rent unless, I only like to raise it small increments from 15 to 25 when someone's been there for several years and the rents have gone up. But I've had owners that have called and want me to raise it like $100 or $200. It's like,
ooh.
yes, I can get that much, but do you really want to? And I will tell you, 99% of the time, if you raise 100 or 200, they're probably going to move.
The person's going to move out.
And they're not going to move because they want to or they can't afford it. They're going to move because they're pissed.
They're unhappy with that.
They're unhappy. They think, oh,
the landlord is ripping me off.
And they think if they did this to me now, what are they going to do to me in 6 months? So you set a pattern of behavior, and they buy into that pattern of behavior.
Laurel's absolutely right. Remember a year ago or a couple of years ago when the investors were pretty strong in picking off properties on the market, one of the things that Coach and that Bob Gervais and we all talked about was how well it penciled for the investor.
Right.
And the money that it took to get in. Money's still pretty cheap. For the investor. The interest rates are still pretty favorable. Rents are actually moving up a little bit, which helps it pencil even more. So
exactly.
I think you're right. We've got the stage set for some investor money that will really help bolster the rental market, help with the vacancy rate over time.
That's a good point.
And
That's an excellent
bring
point.
some balance back to the
Excellent
living
point.
situation.
But it doesn't seem like that it's helping right now, though, Joby. There's still
It's going to take time for sure. But and also the borrowing standards for buyers has lightened up a little bit. They've loosened up. Some of the major banks and major lenders have again now just buyers that were on the threshold now are going to be able to get into the game maybe. So we've had a little lull in buyers too. And gosh, you just wonder where those folks are now. The inventory is coming in, that pent up demand of the buyers. We're going to see some good activity there too, but the investors are still going to have a good and healthy market to dig into.
But if investors were doing it as much as you both are saying, that we wouldn't have a less than 2% vacancy rate, would we? We would have more. We would have more inventory. Rental income.
Yeah, that engine's just started again.
It's just started again.
So
I agree with you.
You don't think investors are kind of backing away and saying maybe I shouldn't have rentals. It's not worth it. Kind of thing. You're not seeing that.
Yeah, I am.
These are the things. Okay.
Yeah, and the reason is because they keep, and we're going to talk a little bit about this today. They keep instituting or
changing the
rules, and every city has a new registration, a new little fee, a little this, a little that. They raise the water prices have gone up.
We've done several hours of shows on the rule change.
So if you're a landlord and you pay for those, it's just eating away at any kind of profit that you can have.
Oh, come on. I love my favorite story where I had the new employee that was putting all the checks into envelopes to my owners, for statement time. And everything was under $1,000. And she looked at me, she goes, how can these owners afford to make their mortgage payments? These little checks they got don't even pay their mortgage payment. I said, bingo, you're right.
Yeah.
So, the renters out there, they think these landlords are wealthy, and they're not.
No.
They're not. They're not making money. They're making depreciation and tax write-offs, yes.
Right.
I mean, I will hand them that. But they're not making.
They're not making cash.
No.
They don't have a big breakout.
With big cash
they're not
every
going
month.
on vacation into Hawaii.
Yeah, you can't go there ever because you're making of that a rental market.
It's an investment. It's their 401k. Yeah. It's something that has to pay off in 30 years. It's not going to pay off for them.
Yeah.
And I have to educate the tenants on this frequently. I go, listen. You don't understand. They're not going to just put in a screen door because you feel like having a screen door. I mean, these are expenses that are not in their budget. Well, how come they can't? I said, listen, let me explain to you. And I have to explain to tenants an owner's rights and what the owner uses for an investment and what pencils for them. And
that's
some of
really
these people
smart.
don't.
Yeah,
and these people don't understand because most of the tenants have never been homeowners.
Right.
You can't expect someone uneducated in the field to understand the difference between the owner and the renter. So there's a lot of education that takes place. A lot of education.
And it is. That list adds up pretty quickly.
And that's what we're going to talk about today is some education.
Right. And we'll get to that in our next segment because we're almost up here. One of the things that I've tried to push for that I think really needs to be done, and no one, I fall on deaf ears. I don't know why all the time. But anyway, why when you send out a bill or the rent comes due, say my rent is $1,000 a month.
Right.
And the taxes, the property taxes on that the renter thinks the $1,000 goes to the owner of the house.
Right.
Oh, hey, you made $1,000 this month.
Yeah.
Well, what he doesn't know is to say that the house payment may be X, but the taxes, the property taxes might be $200, $250, $300 on that house.
And then you have insurance.
And you have insurance.
Then
those
you have
things
to pay
are
for
not
me.
those. You pay a property manager.
Yeah.
Those things are not itemized out for renters. Their portion of the property tax, or these, because they're not just paying. The rent is not just going to the landlord, and that's so
perception is
wrong.
I'm paying your mortgage.
Yes, I pay you. Yeah. And you're making $300 off me for that $1,000.
And let's make it really clear right now to our listening community that the price for management in the property management division is usually 7 to 10% for a single unit. Mm-hmm. And there are companies that will give you 7%, and there's companies that will give you 10%. I mean, there's a big difference between what you're getting for your 7 to 10%.
Oh yeah, absolutely, there is there.
Real quickly, the last Medford Forum show taped on Thursday was the League of Oregon Cities and Councilor.
We're talking
Gordon.
about that.
So check rbtv.sou.edu. And the schedules for the replay are on there. You can get it on the City of Medford website anytime.
Oh, yeah.
Good information.
Yeah.
I about fell over out of my chair when I heard him talk.
Thing about this?
Anyway,
they interviewed me for that.
All right.
Yeah.
Hey, the Real Estate Show. We're coming right back after this. The Real Estate Show rolls on KMED. Welcome back to our show. Pete Belcaster and Joe Brett, the real estate guys, with you here today. Joe's a broker with RE/MAX Ideal Brokers. I'm with John L. Scott. Today, every week, we get together here on KMED and talk about real estate issues that affect all of us from Jackson and Josephine counties. And over the years, there's a lot of them. And if you, of course, need any advice, guidance, or counsel, Joe and I are here to help you as well. You can contact us anytime, and we're ready to do that. We're with Laurel Adams today. She's the owner of All Cities Property Management and our resident property management expert here on the Real Estate Show. And one of the things we've learned in terms of that it is still a good investment. And that's the thing that I find that talking with clients and stuff is that, the stock market, may only be worth so much. And you got to diversify, right? You got to diversify your stuff.
Sign me up for that roller coaster, please.
And that real estate is still a good value. And you see that, Laurel, I assume, because you work with investors and people who invest in rental properties for many, many different reasons.
Right. Lots of different reasons.
Yeah. Now, to me, if you want to do this, you got to be smart. I mean, if you want to get into the rental business. And there are a number of classes I know in education that people who may be thinking about getting into this or doing something. And how's that going? Do you have you got stuff coming up or something, right?
Well, yeah, we just had a lot of stuff just come up. And I was always, as usual, I'm always surprised how few people show up. It's like, where are they? Where are these? If we have I've forgotten the figure, but thousands and thousands of rental units.
Yeah.
And a lot of them are being managed by what they refer to as mom and pops, meaning people that own a rental or two and they manage it themselves.
Sure.
Okay. The law and the judges of Jackson and Josephine County see that as a business.
Right.
They don't see that as a mom-pop thing that you just have to kind of fiddle around with it on the weekends. They see it as you running a business.
And you are running a business.
And you are expected to run it as a business.
And it goes far beyond having the appliance working, the plumbing happening right, and the house in good order. It's those federal laws. It's the housing laws. It's all that comes with having a tenant and providing a residence for someone under contract.
Exactly. It's like, nowadays, if we get sick, we go to our regular medical doctor. And what percentage of time do they treat us there? No, they send us to where? The specialist. Because everything's specializing. Well, the same thing is with I believe that's with every single business that is available to us. And everyone specializes. I mean, there's commercial property versus sales and rentals versus residential. Mm-hmm. The laws are different. Everything's different. You almost have to specialize and learn everything you can about one entity, one particular topic. Mm-hmm. So anyway, my big thing is that we had the laws change this last July, and so this coming January the laws changed, and one of them was about the HUD not being able to say no HUD.
Now this was to catch people back up. This was the rule that came down.
Yes.
In the past. if I was a landlord, I could discriminate against a HUD person, a HUD rental. Now we're talking about HUD rentals,
right?
If you were a HUD rental and you had a HUD voucher,
yes,
and you came to me, that I could say no, I don't rent to HUD, and they had to go away. Correct.
Correct.
And now that's changing.
It has changed.
It has changed.
And it was supposed to go into effect January, but because they weren't ready to put it into effect, and part of the law that was passed said that there would be a money pocket, a purse by the state, that in case HUD people, the HUD people destroyed your property, and you
could have recourse to come back and claim some. Okay.
And the owner-landlord took them through the process of trying to collect the money, which is uncollected because they don't have any money. That's why they're on HUD. Then you could, once you got a small claims from the court saying that you have an award, you could take that award and send it to the state, and they would send you the money.
Mm-hmm.
Well, they didn't know where they were going to purse strings were going to come from and who was going to put the money and where the money was going to come from. So they switched it off to July to figure it out.
Have they figured it out?
No one knows.
Even
the attorneys, and none of us know. It's all a big waiting. But July 1 is supposedly the date.
So somewhere this pool of money is supposed to be set up
to help us owners.
That if I'm a rental owner and I rent to a HUD person, with a HUD voucher,
right,
and they destroy it, or
right,
they damage it,
right,
then I have recourse to come back and get the difference back from that.
Right.
Okay. That is interesting, isn't it? I mean, I remember when you first said that, Laurel, and it's
all the rules and everything haven't really been firmed up. And
who's supposed to do that?
Well, so here's what I want to say. So Thursday, March 20th, we had a class at RCC Sal building, educational building. We had a national speaker for fair housing. She was there from 1 to 4, do the most incredible discussion on fair housing that I've seen in my 12 years.
Really?
And she's an attorney, and she just travels around giving fair housing discussions. So there was an opportunity for all of us to learn about fair housing. Carlisle Stout, an attorney here who does landlord-tenant law, he gave the update landlord-tenant law through the Southern Oregon Renter Owners Association this last Thursday night.
And he's been on our show before.
And he answered a lot of the questions to a lot of owners and people about, all these laws.
What are some of the things, Laurel, that they ask?
Last Thursday night, I was here back in for Fotheringham and Associates. Their attorneys out of Portland were down here giving a class that's free to HO Homeowner Association board members. It means anybody in the Rogue Valley can go to their meetings for free and learn about how to manage their homeowners associations. And last Thursday, the discussion was on insurance, what kind of insurance to have, what you need to have, and resolutions and enforcement policies. And they'll be back in May. So anyone who needs or wants to send their board members, it's a free presentation. It's at the library, Medford Library. They need to contact either me or Fotheringham and Associates. They can look it up online and get their agenda. But the point is that we're having all of these educational things here for us, and very few people are showing up. And people, the tenants and the people involved, and your homeowners, for your homeowners association, your members, they are knowing the laws.
Well, that's what I was going to say. That's the one thing I think, Joe, we've learned from Laurel.
You got
is
to
that
know the stuff.
If you're the landlord, even if you're the owner, is that your renters know these rules. And if you don't, you're just setting yourself up to get messed up.
So here's plain and simple, fair housing. Fair housing is here to stay. It's only going to become more an impediment to us, all of us, because as good as fair housing is to help people from being discriminated, it also makes you as owners feel discriminated against. So everyone is feeling discriminated against national, which is federal laws. These are federal laws. They're not going to change. They're only going to get worse. They're not going to get better. So everyone is feeling discriminated, and I say that justly because we owners are feeling just as discriminated against as people, as the renters and the tenants. So, for instance, come July 1, God forbid that anyone out there in this listening audience that is hearing this, you need to tell all your friends that have rental housing. If someone calls you on the phone and says, I'd like to see this rental, blah, 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 And by the way, I have a HUD voucher, and let me tell you, they are going to look for the people who are going to say, "Well, I don't take HUD." You're going to get nailed. They're going to email Fair Housing. What Fair Housing is going to do is set up a couple of scouts and call and get the same answer, and you're nailed. And guess what?
You're going to get a fine.
The fines start at like $10,000, $50,000, $100,000.
You're kidding.
No, it puts people into bankruptcy. And let me make it real clear: your homeowner's insurance, even my insurance for my company, doesn't cover Fair Housing complaints and violations.
Wow.
For me to put it on,
for
me to put it on, and I'm thinking about putting it on, and next week actually, for me to add on a Fair Housing, what do you call it, a part of a clause or something, or the ability. Last year I was quoted $2,900 a year to add on a little clause that said that they would cover me in a Fair Housing complaint.
Wow.
So it's very expensive.
It's better that you know it and avoid that, I
suppose.
Just
really
probably
important.
that expensive because they probably pay some pretty big claims to
do.
people who violate those laws.
Does a person with a HUD voucher have to tell you they have a HUD voucher?
At some point, yes, they do.
All right. Well, that's really going to be interesting. You better be careful on that one. That's really...
And you know why they do? Because you have to fill out the paperwork.
Oh, see what I'm talking about?
Yeah,
that's
paperwork.
why you need someone like Laurel to kind of figure all this stuff out, because for the rest of us, it's too crazy. We're talking with Laurel Adams. We're coming right back on The Real Estate Show. Real Estate Show rolls on KMED. It's the 29th of March of 2014. Pete and Joe with you here this afternoon, this morning, along with Laurel Adams. She's the owner of All Cities Property Management. And, well, we've come to really admire and just in awe of all that you have to do, that we've learned about managing rental properties, and how, if you're smart and if you're an investor or whatever, if you own just one or two or three or four rentals, boy, you better be smart, because your renters are, and the rules change and all these things, and it can be a good investment. But I've really come to the conclusion, I'd want somebody to manage it for me. And that's the thing that I admire about you and Laurel, is that you manage them so well, because it's a complicated, crazy business. And as we're hearing again today, we have a less than 2% vacancy rate in Jackson County. Remember that. Rentals are hard to find and prices are increasing. And it's just this market supply and demand. And I don't know how that's going to change, or it's going to change anytime soon. It sure doesn't look like it is.
No, and one of the things that you and I were talking about at break was the fact that a lot of our HUD voucher people are looking to move, and because the vacancy rate is so low, people aren't taking HUD.
Right.
And so they have no place to go. But come July, it's open. It's going to be open
season.
So it's going to be like cockroaches, just like chung. And I think we're going to see this incredible change, because all of a sudden, all the people that are now on HUD that have HUD vouchers will be able to have the opportunity to move to where they want rather than where they're told they can.
Right, and that's the difference. So
they're going to be coming out in droves, and we are going to have to deal with them.
How do you deal, though?
And they're not all bad people, so I want to make that clear.
Absolutely, but a person with a HUD voucher, what types of prices are they asking or looking for paying in rents? Are they paying lower rents, or are they paying higher rents? I mean,
they pay market value, so whatever whatever your rent is. But generally, and we're going to be having Kara on right near July to do a HUD housing update for everybody and I'm going to have her on TV too.
Oh, okay.
And
good.
She's also going to be at SOROA doing an update for us. So everybody out there, info@soroa.net. Watch for our classes. Watch when Kara's going to be there, because she's incredibly bright in this field. She's the head of the HUD housing here. I really like her, and she knows her stuff. And she'll be giving us updates and telling us how to do things. And actually, she and their office, as well as the rental owners, we didn't want this HUD thing to go through. This is something that was pushed through Portland.
In the Portland area,
because it was an issue. We're all doing fine down here without having this you have to policy. And we didn't like it. No one down here liked it. So I want to make it clear to our listeners that this was not supported by our local people.
This was not an industry-supported kind of push.
No, this was a Portland area thing that came up.
Is this the biggest change you've seen coming in rental business in some time, this HUD change?
Well, we've had a couple of biggies, but this may have one of the biggest impacts that we've seen
the biggest
for a while.
impact, right?
We've had some impacts in the past.
And it's going to be an immediate impact.
Yeah, the one thing that you asked that I think is important to remind people is that HUD voucher will only allow so much per unit. So if you have a family of 2, 3, or 4, they have a schedule of rents, and people will call, and if your rent is above that schedule, then you don't have, they can't apply for your rental.
Okay.
So those figures are changing, and that's one thing Carol will probably go over, and she'll tell us where those breakoffs are.
Wow.
But one of the things that's anticipated that people, I've had some owners tell me they were going to do, is they're going to find out what those numbers are right around July and make their rents $10 or $15 more than that current voucher amount.
Right.
To hopefully, they're going to be their way.
That's going to be the solution.
That's going to be their solution. But will it work? I don't know. Is it right? I don't know. I'm not saying yay or nay. I'm just saying that right now everyone's scrambling, trying to figure out how, what, where, when, why, and how.
Boy.
We are the annoying little stepbrother to Portlandia.
Yeah, we are.
And so much that when Portlandia starts to think what is right and good, we're not thought about very much of what works for us down
it's
here.
a different environment up there
the
than
same
it is down
disconnect
here.
in the legislature, the Willamette Valley, and the whole rest of the state.
Look how you have, the whole rental industry in Portland would be totally different than it is here. I mean, you've got all sorts of combinations and things. Well, I wonder what's going to happen. It's going to be an interesting time, isn't it? I mean,
yeah, and fair housing. People have to understand that fair housing is getting more and more. It's coming more and more up, and so all of you out there that you can go to the Fair Housing Council of Oregon, and it's information at hco.org. And that is the main head site for the Oregon Fair Housing Council. And there's a lot of information on there for owners and for homeowners associations. They have a whole homeowner association thing because guess what? That is the biggest right now. That is coming to the forefront. And the attorneys tell me that there is going to be a whole bunch of homeowner association litigation against board members and HOA complexes. So one of the things I learned about insurance last Thursday was you got to make sure that you have, for your board of directors, you have errors and omissions
emissions insurance
for your boards.
For your board.
And you know what? Guess what? A lot of the homeowner association boards don't have that.
Yeah.
It's like they can be sued individually.
Those
are things to think about, aren't they?
Yeah.
There's something to be said for living in an older neighborhood.
And you manage homeowner associations.
Yeah,
I mean, you actually
one.
manage them. Do you require them to do that?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, you require owners and emissions.
But a lot of the homeowner associations are being run by their members,
right,
who are really wonderful people and are very knowledgeable. They're businessmen and they've been in business. They just don't know the rest of the rules. And that's why Fotheringham's come down and is making these classes to boards.
All right.
Or anyone that wants to go.
Well, we're going to be out of time here. Laurel Adams from All Cities Property Management, thank you. We'll see
You're
you
welcome.
soon. And we always learn something every time Laurel comes on. That is for sure. Just keep in mind as we're going to get out of here that the League of Oregon Cities thing that they're doing, they want to change the way property is sold and the way your taxes are done. If you sell your property, whatever the sale price is becomes the new assessed value to pay taxes on. Everybody would have an increase in a sale there.
Off next week, back at 11 a.m. the Saturday after that.
Right.
And that'll be our time for the following 2 months.
April the 12th. We'll be back in 2 weeks. So, yeah, that's it for us today on The Real Estate Show. Thanks for being with us. For Joe Brett, I'm Pete Belcastro. Have a great 2 weeks, everybody. God bless, and we'll see you on the 12th of April.
You've been listening to The Real Estate Show on KMED AM 1440.